I'd like to call the Tuesday, August 16, 2016 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Butler, would you please take the roll?
Florence. Here. Mumgard. Here. Gaines. Here. Glover. Jaworski. Here. Klug. Stubbe. Here. Ingberg.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That is correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the council chambers. Chief, would you join me? We got a special presentation tonight. We actually have an oath of office, which we don't get to do very often. Have a new police officer with us, Brian Malone. Brian, would you join us as well? Yes, sir. Have Chief first of all do an introduction, then we'll do the oath and the pinning.
I'm here tonight to introduce our newest police officer, Brian Malone. Officer Malone was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. He graduated in 2013 with a bachelor's degree from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. He is a graduate of Scott Catholic High School. He graduated from the Nebraska Law Enforcement Training Center in Grand Island in 2015. He's worked as a Nebraska State Trooper and then with the Valley Police Department. He's joined here tonight by family and friends, and I'll let him introduce them.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. I brought with me my girlfriend here, Caitlin. Sitting next to her is Amy Otter. She's sergeant with the Omaha Police Department. Sitting here is my Aunt Martha Bame, her brother, and my father, Kevin Malone. Next to him is my best friend from neighbor, Dan Faulkner. And the row behind, sitting in the black, is my mother, Mary Beth. And sitting next to her is her sister and my aunt, Terry. Thank you.
As I've stated before, the swearing-in ceremony for police officers is very special. It marks the occasion that we pledge our commitment to the citizens, community, the state of Nebraska to uphold the United States Constitution. And second, it marks the beginning of them being a part of our family, the Papillion Police Department. One of the things that I wanted to add was stood out in my interview with Officer Malone was he was very excited about working with the city of Papillion. He described it as some place where he'd always wanted to live. He wanted to live and serve in a great community, and I was very impressed by the way it came across in our interview, and I could not reflect that in what I just said. So, but anyway, with that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Black.
If you'd raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Brian Malone,
Do solemnly swear
that
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that
that I will bear true faith
and
allegiance to the same,
that
that I take this obligation freely
and
without mental reservation or for the purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of police officer according to law and to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate or am I member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, and that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence. So help me God. That oath is longer than the president's. I take your oath. share a few words.
Yes. Thank you for all. I'm thrilled. Like Chief said, this is my third place that I've worked as a police officer, and I do hope it's my final. I've been on the road now doing FTO for 4 weeks with my FTO officer Higgins, and it's been more than I could ever ask for, being busy and involving with people here in the city of Papillion, and then being able to eventually move here and raise a family here. I am thrilled. So I thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you and welcome.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Hoynes, Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I begin my report this evening by giving an official last call to council members for budget items and input. If you notice, this evening we have actually the public hearing on the budget. I think I have one meeting scheduled with one council member here maybe this week, but the next time we meet, which will actually be 3 weeks from tonight because of the number of Tuesdays, will be the third and final and your last opportunity to make any amendments or inputs that you may have on that budget. So I would appreciate some lead time if you have those. It gives us some time to adjust those. But again, give me a call and certainly be glad to walk through that and have a discussion if you think it needs changes. This is also council members' time of the year where our relationship with the school district is very, very important. Schools starting everything from traffic concerns and safety to SROs to the overpass. I think I sent you some information on that has went to committee that's in there. I think I'm meeting either this week or next with Dr. Rickley to finalize some of those things, but it's a real busy time of the year and we do appreciate that relationship. From the event side, I think it's by circumstance that Tammy's here, but she never likes it, but to call her out and thank her for Slide the City. A couple thousand people, went very well. Procedurally, it was, I think last year I described it as a duck feet underwater. It looked very good on top, but we were all learning on the run. This year I think it was much easier, much more efficient. Not as many people, but I think the people actually enjoyed it more. They got to go down the slide some, and so we'll make further decisions on whether or not we want to do that here in the near future and bring that back for a recommendation from you. We have, again, I'm not sure, Mark, is this the 8th, 9th year of the bike criterion? 10th, wow. We had this weekend. I won't steal the mayor's thunder and say it's NASCAR on wheels, 2 wheels, but that's what it is. It's a fun event, so that'll be going on this weekend. Conclude my report, Mr. Mayor, and I was noticing here that we're going through the CMR process to hire a construction manager for the potential community center. It's a committee. There's 4 council members involved in that, and they all happen to sit on this side of the room. Council members Ingberg, Stubbe, Klug, and Jaworski sat through and actually graded the initial written proposals for us, put a score sheet to it. We have a citizen on that, Mr. Thompson, myself, Mr. Palau, Lori Hansen, I think are the other people that are working through that. We have interviews scheduled with 5 companies on September 1st. We'll combine those 2 scores and then have a discussion. And September 20th, I believe, is the target date to bring to the full council a recommendation of a contractor for that project. So you're certainly welcome to have any discussion or input on that, or if you'd like information. Any one of those 4 council members certainly in the loop on what's going on. And I'll be glad to sit down with you, as I'm sure Mr. Thompson and Ms. Hanson would, and keep you involved in it. So that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Jaworski. Second by Councilman Stubbe. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item D1, Ordinance 1747, an ordinance to amend Section 46-2H of Chapter 46 of the Papillion Municipal Code in order to eliminate the visual recording device requirements set forth therein and to change the record retention period for audio recordings from 6 years to 1 year, to amend Section 4610A of the Papillion Municipal Code in order to change the commencement time from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. for regular meetings of the City Council and to provide for an effective date. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Stubbe. Next is item E1, Ordinance 1740. An ordinance to amend in its entirety Chapter 92, Article 3, Section 15 of the Papillion Municipal Code having to do with the adoption of the International Residential Code, IRC, International Building Code, IBC, International Energy Conservation Code, IECC, International Fuel Gas Code, IFGC, International Plumbing Code, IPC, International Mechanical Code, IMC, and International Existing Building Code, IEBC, and to provide for an effective date. This is the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing and call for proponents, but before one gets up, let you know staff is requesting that we table this item. We want to make sure as much as possible we can actually align with the City of Omaha building updates, make it easier on the development community. I think that'll make a lot of sense, and there's still some work going on. But we did publish this, so we do have to open the public hearing, but then we'll ask for a motion to table it in a little bit. So I will call for proponents if there are any. Call for opponents. Is there a motion to table the public hearing for Ordinance 1740 until the chief building official requests that the item return to the agenda? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
That is continued or tabled. Thank you very much. Item E2, Ordinance 1745, an ordinance to adopt the budget statement to be termed the annual appropriation bill to appropriate sums for necessary expenses and liabilities and to provide for an effective date. This is a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing. Do we have proponents? Do we have any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Item F1, Resolution R160088, a resolution to approve the second extension of property lease agreement with Lamb of God Evangelical Lutheran Church. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R160088? Motion by Councilman Glover. Second by Councilman Gaines. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? I do just want to point out, just so the record's very clear, this is the second one to go beyond the January date, but if the CMR process continues as expected, this agreement probably won't be needed. But if anything in the process breaks down, then this does give the ability to extend. So it's more of a proactive, just in case we can be ready for that. Any other council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Item F2, Resolution R160101, a resolution to approve the Granite Falls Commercial Subdivision Agreement. Motion to approve Resolution R160101. Motion by Councilman Stubbe. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
So all the regular agenda items, and I don't think any committees met, so there's no updates there. Do we have any comments from the floor? Any council comments? Just a couple of things from the last couple of weeks. I think everybody knows from the last council meeting we had the Lincoln Road informational meeting here. Attended that. Good discussion and dialogue there. Also, Mayor Kindig and myself work partnering with Dr. Rickley on a program we're calling Community Connections. What we want to do is just spark some discussion that's common between the school districts, the City of Papillion, and the City of La Vista around most of it's around mental health, what's going on in the community, and raising awareness of resources that are out there. Because a mental health issue, the school feels it. Sometimes it ends up being called to the police, which turns into a criminal action when it probably should have been a mental health issue. It could end up in the fire department if they're getting a call and it takes a wrong path. So we're just trying to think, how do we raise awareness of mental health, teen suicide, and those types of things. But it's not just teens and adults, but both chiefs are participating in that as well. And hopefully we'll have a report out in a couple of months. We're not looking to start a new program, more raise awareness of the programs that are already out there and that are already funded. Thanks to everybody for attending the National Cemetery dedication. I estimate we probably had about 1,100 people there. I think the VA from Washington was, they had their expectation at about 500. That's typical in other communities, and we got a lot of positive comments on the cooperation here and how honoring that ceremony was. So again, thank you for that. Attended Sarpy County Economic Development's Economic Outlook, and then again, thank you for Slide the City. As Dan mentioned, attendance was down a little bit, but I think we expected that. It's a novelty thing, so we're going to get a lot of people that first year. Novelty wears off, it's going to go down. But Slide the City, the representative told me it didn't drop as much as they see in other communities. And to Dan's point, I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people that the lower attendance probably got it to the right size. Last year, with the number of people, the lines were really long, and people would buy that ticket and maybe went down 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times. This year, had some people saying that they probably went 40 times and their kids were exhausted. And so this year, they really felt they got the value for the dollar. And I think the businesses turned out very well. So I think it ended up being a good program. So Tammy and everybody else, thank you very much for everything there. Mr. Hoynes and I and Ms. Rupiper and Mr. Sersma, we had a meeting this afternoon with Sarpy County Economic Development and Project Raven. They're still moving ahead and getting to some final decision points, and we had a very good meeting there. And things are still looking positive, but I think they're looking for reasons to eliminate sites as opposed to trying to make a site work. They're actually looking for reasons to eliminate sites, and so we'll see where we end up in that. Indications are they still want to close on a piece of ground probably by the end of the year, so hopefully we'll be hearing sooner than later. And then just a reminder of the criterion. Any other council comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn? No. Motion by Councilman Jaworski, second by Councilman Glover. Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
We are adjourned.